All right, and welcome back to another tutorial video. Today we are going to be learning how to make a Booj sound effect. If you are not familiar with what a Booj sound effect is, go back or listen to the 20,000 Hertz podcast about the Booj. I'll put a link in the description of this video, but if you are in my Google Classroom, you'll also find a link in the Google Classroom as well. But this project is an introduction to sound design, designing specifically a sound effect. In this project, you are going to be able to create and design a custom sound wave using the ES2 Synthesizer plugin in Logic. You're going to learn how to manipulate the various settings necessary to obtain the sound we're looking for. Last but not least, you're going to also be able to explore, navigate, and add audio sound effects to embellish the designed sound. So let's get started. We need to first create a sound foundation. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening up a new project. We're going to select a software instrument track to start, and we're going to change the plugin from the default to the ES2 Synthesizer. So if we go over to my Logic project, I have already created the project. It defaults to the electric piano for me. And I'm just going to go down over to here where the plugin is designated. I'm going to change it all the way down to the ES2 Synthesizer 2. And just click on it and have that window pop up. All right, let's go back to our slides. We have that figured out and done, and we need to create the necessary settings for us to create a sound effect. We have multiple different settings here. It's a little bit overwhelming, I guess you could say. If you have not watched the video from Wintergotten about synthesizers, again, go back to the Google Classroom and check that video out. It might help kind of clear some things and how to navigate what we're looking at right now. A synthesizer is basically, it creates a sound wave by manipulating oscillators. Oscillators are the things that are creating the sound waves. And so we have 3 oscillators here. And if I play it, you can hear the combination of those 3 oscillators. I can change the combination by changing where the dot resides in the triangle. So here I have my saw wave. I can change it to a square wave. A little bit of retro video games. Our tooth wave, which is a little bit more easier to listen to. Then we have this smooth wave, which is a type of sine wave. I can also go down here, and it's the same thing. However, with the sine wave, I can add various embellishments with it. So we're just going to put this down to the sine wave, which is, if you ever had like your hearing tested, kind of sounds like that. All right. And because we don't need these, if you click on the number, we're going to just turn those off. And we're going to just create a foundation of 1 oscillator playing a sine wave. It's a great foundation to have, especially for the sound effect, because you can get some bassy notes. By the way, if you don't have good headphones, you probably didn't hear the note that I just played. I'm wearing some studio headphones, and so this note that I'm playing currently shakes my head. But if you're wearing cheap earbuds or something like that, it's not going to get down to those frequencies, which you might need to find headphones that get to the low frequencies to be able to hear the sounds that we're typically looking for with this sound effect. All right, we have to change a setting up here. If you see where my cursor is, we have a few different options here. We have poly. Poly means I can play multiple notes at the same time. Right? Play chords just like a regular piano. If I click it to mono, I can now play those chords, but only one note's going to play. It's going to choose. If I play multiple notes at the same time, the computer's going to choose which one But typically, if I'm playing multiple notes, it plays whatever note is being played last. So the peak with, or the, not the peak, the perk. The perk with this is if I play 2 notes and I keep one of my notes down. Let's see, I'm playing on a keyboard, but if I do this, you can see it on the musical typing. You can see that I can hold down that C and play the C above, and it jumps. And one of the perks of having the mono, meaning only one note can be played at a time, you can have pretty quick arpeggios. It's kind of how small systems that used 8-bit, 16-bit were able to process sounds literally just with mono. So what you heard was a combination of arpeggios when you played games like that. So we have our mono setting, which is what we're looking for. We have our sine setting, which is what we're looking for. And now we're going to mess with how long it takes to go from one note to the other note. Right now, it's instantaneous. But if I wanted to lengthen it, I'm going to go to this knob right here, our glide knob, and I'm going to move it up. And as you can see, it does it in milliseconds. And so adds a little bit of a swoop. And if I lengthen it, it draws out the transition between those 2 notes to whatever length millisecond-wise you have it set. This is also the big key for making our Booj sound effect. So we're dealing with the sound wave shape. If you have it saw, or I should say saw, tooth, sine, square. You also need to have the settings not from poly but to mono, and then change the glide to your choice. Granted, if you want to add a second oscillator later, that's your prerogative, that's your choice. However, right now we are just setting up the foundation of our Booj sound effect. So now if I play, I'm going to turn that down a little bit, that's a little aggressive. Low frequency sounds, it will have that swoop, which that one actually sounds like the charging sound of Halo, like your shield charging. But let's go up to musical typing, because most of you are probably going to be using musical typing. We want to be in the octave of C1. I can play, if I change this to keyboard, because I have my keyboard, I can play all these keys right in front of me. Set to poly. Ooh. Some sound effects there because I have my glide really high. But you can see how I'm working within this range of the octave. And we want to be down around C1. So going into musical typing, you want to set your octave to be around C1. Yeah, C1. Only because later on we'll be able to change that manually. So we have everything we need for our Booj sound effect, the core of it. So let's go back. We have our mono settings, we have our glide settings, and now we need to talk about audio effects. If we have a variety of audio effects that we can add to our sound after we have our Booj recorded. This includes distortion, reverb, echo, chorus, and so on and so on. There's quite a bit. You can even go and add more if you are on your own computer. You can purchase more of these effects. Preferably purchase. The free ones tend to be a little bit cheaper in quality, as well as not necessarily quality. trustworthy, etc. So, but there's plenty that Logic includes already. And so I don't see anybody having to go out and beyond to find anything new. You're going to find them, if I close this window, right under the Audio Effects tab, which is right here. We don't want to add it to the slider on the right because this is our stereo output. This is the main output. We just want to deal with the track. So we're going to stay on the left side, and we have all these subgroups. We have amps and pedals, so you can add amp effect. You can even go to a pedal board, like a guitar pedal board, and add distortion. You can add drive. You can add fuzz. All these things, which add different elements to it. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Right? So you have those little embellishments that you can add. You have your delay, distortion, bit crusher, which caps the clip. All those different sound effects that it's up to the listener or the producer, depending on what you're dealing with in the production. You have chorus, ensembles, flanger, all those things that you saw in the pedals, but you can add it here. You also have EQ, filter, reverb, which is kind of like an echo, but not as intense as an echo. Reverb is kind of creating the room sound, and then so on and so on. All right, so let's get to recording our Booj. When you record, it's best to leave this count-in on. So it's going to tell you that it's about to record. When you hit record, you're going to hear 4 clicks. And then it should stop, and you'll see that the recording cursor's into play. Using musical typing, the highest note you can play is under your apostrophe or your quotation key. The lowest one is your A. And when you record, let's get that set up back up there. All right. When you record, you want to try to get the transition between those two notes as close as possible, so you just hear a nice swoop. Again, I'm going to hit the R for recording so that my hands are ready to go with the recording capabilities of my keyboard and catch that Booj. Here we go. Something went wrong. So let's look at what we had going on. I think I know exactly what I did wrong. Yes, it's right here. I have my poly on. I'm going to turn that off to mono, and let's try that again. So there's my Booj. It's the beginning of one. But we need to do a few more things. Let's go into the file itself. We can see that I have 2 distinct notes. The computer is going to play the notes in time as they show up, just like a player piano. So there's a gap between the start of the first note and the start of the second note. One way to clean it up is to eliminate that gap as much as possible. If I go too far, what happens is it goes in reverse, which is a different sound effect. Not to say that it's a bad sound effect, but it's not the one we're looking for. So I want to get it just after the top note starts. There we go. We have a nice, good, solid start. But I want more of a range. I want a more dramatic drop. I've got my core notes right here. I'm just going to drag the bottom one down. Now, that's starting to sound like a Booj, if I say so myself. And we might want to add some EQ. Let's turn on this. Just turn down some of the high frequencies here that I saw. Yeah. And let's change this to reverb. I'm going to use platinum reverb. It's one of my go-tos. I'm going to crank up the room size. The shape doesn't matter. And I'm going to make the output what we call wet. So it rings, it resonates quite a bit. Different sound. Here it is without it. Here it is with. All right, and that's the start. So what I'd like for you guys to do is to create your Booj. Again, going back to our slides, you need to create a sound using your ES2 Synthesizer plugin, eliminating only allowing one of the oscillators. I think later on, if you want to try exploring having multiple oscillators, that's your choice. Keep in mind that we want to have the settings on mono, and you want to adjust the glide for the purpose of your sound effect. You can then add whatever distortion, reverb, echo, chorus, etc., including adding a second oscillator if you want to try that out, or changing the sound wave at this point. After you record, you want to keep in mind, I meant to show you this, keep in mind that if you, going back here, let's say you recorded early, keep in mind that if the track, the beginning of this bar happens just before the green zone, it's not going to register it as being played. In its mind, it's already pushed down. It doesn't have the attack. You need to have the attack, or the beginning of that note, to happen within the green screen, or the green bar. So just keep that in mind. And in the end, you are exporting and submitting this as an audio project, like many of the projects that we've had before, and it should be pretty straightforward. So the core of it should be the same for pretty much everybody out there, but when it comes to personalizing it, explore different settings in the synthesizer plugin, explore different audio effects, and create a Booj to your liking. All right, good luck, have fun.